In tonight's Business Insider, SIFIs, systematically important financial institutions. In 2012, Congress passed Dodd-Frank to prevent another financial crisis like too big to fail. Today, 3 insurance giants have the SIFI label: AIG, Prudential, and MetLife. But they don't want it. Joining me now to explain is Jason Howell, President and Family Wealth Advisor at Jason Howell Company. All right, Jason, let's start with some background here. What is a systematically important financial institution? Why is that label unattractive to the private sector?
First of all, it's accountability. It's accountability, it's oversight, it's making sure that people are doing what they say they're going to do. In short, it's a lot of paperwork.
Yeah.
And some folks may say it's a living will for these companies that are deemed too big to fail. I might also add, these are companies that either in the past or maybe in the future would have to get bailed out by the federal government if something bad happened to them.
Well, you're right. Companies like AIG and MetLife don't want SIFI regulations to apply to them, so they've been making a few changes. Bring us up to date.
They have. Well, MetLife is the easiest one to talk about the changes they've been making. They have about 28,000 folks in the U.S. that they employ for things that we would understand, like life insurance, variable annuities, their brokerage arm. And they're saying maybe we should spin off this entire group from their international operations to look smaller, to become smaller. If they did that and they made it public, they would have to give the SEC 6 months. So we'll know ahead of time if they do it. That's one reaction that they're having. AIG is taking sort of a different approach. They're looking at restructuring, a lot like GE did last year, GE General Electric, and saying, well, maybe we'll spin off too, but let's sort of wait, see, and maybe lobby.
It's a smart move for GE, by the way. Many people praise that move, that it finally happened for General Electric, and they're doing so much better. All right,
That's
so
right.
MetLife wants to avoid the SIFI label. AIG appears to be embracing it a bit more. Now, these are massive, publicly traded companies. How will Wall Street view those approaches?
Well, it always depends, right? A lot of folks don't necessarily realize that SIFI isn't all the way put together yet. Whether it's Basel III, which is the organization that advises how to react to SIFI internationally, or the Federal Reserve Board, some of these rules are here. Some of them are still to be put together, which is why AIG in some cases is really waiting. What we're going to see by the market is really the market's having its own movement already. There's volatility built into the market, and the companies aren't faring too differently from that.
Now, let's move on to a few more critical sectors of the financial market. Anthem announced that its fourth quarter earnings tumbled by 64% and stock shares followed. What does this have to do with the Affordable Care Act?
Well, it has a little bit to do with the Affordable Care Act. It's an easy punching bag, either politically or in the private sector. Understand in context that this company last year made $78 billion in revenue, and year over year, that's a 7.5% increase. So they're doing okay. But they're looking at the ratios between what they are actually paying in premiums, or what their clients are paying in premiums, versus what they're having to pay out in benefits. And that ratio is always important, and it always changes and fluctuates. What the Affordable Care Act has done is put some of these people in something of a box or in a business sort of organization, so it's cheaper. And when it's cheaper, insurance companies lose when it comes to paying out benefits. I would step back again and say this is the company too that we spoke about that is purchasing Cigna for $54 billion. This is the largest sector-related merger in history, so they're doing okay. In honor of Wayne Gretzky's birthday, which was just yesterday, I would do as he said: skate to where the puck is going. If you feel good about this company, its management, the sector, then take a good look at it and see if it fits your goals and your requirements.
And the puck is going away politically for Obamacare, because you've got a lot of sick people signing up, but all the young masses of people that we thought would sign up for it to support the older folks, that's not happening yet. See what takes place in the next 12 months during this political season.
Yes, we will.
All right, for the first time in 13 years, Apple predicted a quarterly decline. How will that impact tech stocks as a whole?
It'll impact it a lot. It'll impact your 401k. Again, we're seeing since January a lot of fluctuation in the market, so more bad news is not good news, and so we'll see fluctuation, like I said. But understand that in the tech sector, the biggest companies, the most popular companies like an Apple, are typically built in. Google's built into your mutual funds that are tech sector built.
Every time you look at, not to interrupt you, but if you start looking at your 401k selections, whether you like it or not, Apple is at the top of the list, if not the second or third item, along with the oil companies.
That's right.
Now let me talk about that. All of these issues continue to be dwarfed by the low price of oil and concerns about China's economy. Are we stabilizing on these fronts at all?
Well, stabilizing is a tricky word. That sort of infers one way that we should be teetering one way or the other. In fact, what we're going to see with oil prices is continued, I guess, decreased demand. That's what's been happening over these years since 2014 when we last peaked in demand. And so, as we talked about before, when you have other countries that are getting into the production game and countries like Saudi Arabia, which are continuing to produce at the same level.
Iran,
we're going to have a supply and demand issue. When demand is low and supply is high, prices are going to go down. And once again, in our mutual funds, in our 401ks, any of the oil sector companies that are in there are going to hurt, and it's going to hurt your personal accounts.
you know, we're saving a lot of money in gas. Gasoline prices are cheap. We've got this oil glut. Oil prices are going to stay low for a while. Does it bother you that we're not seeing consumers and all the Americans going out and spending the money that they're saving by cheap gas prices? Because it doesn't seem to be jolting the economy.
A big part of the economy is spending. Upwards of 70 to 80% is really spending, and we should see some kind of bump there. But we're also nervous as people. We're nervous every presidential election year when it's in doubt, and it has been in doubt the past few cycles about who's going to win depending on your candidate or even your party. We don't know either answer today in January of 2016. So you have that doubt, you have international doubt, you have Iran, you have ISIS. There are many global questions that are affecting our economy. And when people see that, normally they restrict spending or restrict behavior. And if they're smart, they'll pay down some debt.
You're exactly right. It's always good to have you on board.
Always
Jason
good to
Howell,
be here, Morris.
President and Family Wealth Advisor at Jason Howell Company. See you next time.
See ya.